Mr. Pino again, another episode of the 411 from Highway 441. On this episode, I would like to discuss empathy with a side order of respect, and I would also like to discuss triggers. Empathy and sympathy oftentimes get confused, and I'll be real with you guys. Sometimes even I just kind of get confused as to where the line is between empathy and sympathy. I try to remember these things. The way my brain works is images and videos. I see the world, I remember the world, and all my facts and everything else in images and videos. And I have a lot of empathy for the spectrum of autism, because that is a very similar brain pattern to autistic individuals see the world, much more than I do. Obviously I have a range, but they very much see the world in images, snapshots, pictures, and we in special education will utilize the flashcards that have been developed to try to get them to understand skill sets. So back to empathy and sympathy. Sympathy to me is when you feel bad for somebody, but you don't really know what they're going through. I call it like a Southern bless your heart kind of a thing. You imagine all your aunties when they hear bad news about something and they go, "Oh, that's a shame, bless your heart." You know what I mean? That's the feeling of sympathy. Like, yeah, everybody tries to sympathize with everybody else, and that's just surface level. If you want to talk about empathy, the concept of empathy is it's like context versus subtext. Context is sympathy. You know, you're given details about a situation and you feel bad for somebody. Most people have that level. Most people can just recognize, hey man, that sucks, and feel bad for somebody's situation, and that's sympathy. Empathy is like subtext. You dive below the surface and you truly extend yourself and make practice to feel what the other person is feeling, and do everything that you can to put yourself in either the memory of a situation that you have been in that is a direct parallel to theirs. Oh my gosh, you just lost a parent. I've lost a parent. I really empathize with you. In my case, while that is oftentimes true, I directly correlate my own experiences when I am interacting with others. I am also what is known as an empath. It is not like hippie, I have gems and Buddhist symbols and this and that. There's a lot of stigma with Eastern beliefs. Remember, I've traveled the world. I'm talking about this not from that perspective, but more from a psychological perspective, because through counseling sessions that I have attended and through workshops that I have gone to and enrolled in, an empath for me, and how I define it, and Lord knows, ask my wife, ask my mother, ask my family, when people around me are super bummed out, it really settles inside of me and it impacts me directly. Now, the kids at the school don't often see this. I tell my students, my professionalism does not allow me to let the emotional content that I carry spill into the classroom. I just think that's bad practice, so I do everything possible to eliminate my emotions and what I'm dealing with outside of the classroom. And when I go in, I put on that mask and I do my dance for them. There's a fine line between entertainment and engagement, and I try to dance and walk that tightrope for my students. But we're all people, and I have feelings, and when I have a bad day, while the kids will never be able to tell that I'm having a bad day, it's usually from negativity that gets stored inside of me from people around me. It could be, I hear really terrible things as an educator over the course of my career about abuse and physical, emotional abuses, and I hear about tough living situations and what students have to deal with at this very sensitive age when they're in high school. And then I think back to my own experiences and count my blessings, and then empathetically I'm bummed out for like the rest of the day. This also I directly react to the frustrations of others when kids are just pissed off and they flex hard in class, and I have to do the disciplinarian mask, and I put that on and I use my big boy voice and I flex back and try to put them in their place as gracefully as possible so that we can maintain decorum and structure in the classroom. If I have a lot of that going on during the day, it's not fair for me to carry my frustrations from one knucklehead in one period over to my next period and then be grouchy with them. But as an empath, the more I go through those patterns, the more I go through those interactions, it really sits down and it stores up, and it just spoils my day. And that's real talk, kids. That's you don't spoil my day. That's not right. I got a kid, I got a wife, I got friends, I got family. I want to go home and be happy. I want to go home and be be there for me and mine. So you can help me be a better me by just watching for my triggers. This is a good segue into respect and triggers. All of this started when I was listening to NPR this morning, and there was a story about this father, and he has an autistic son, and they were talking about sensory triggering. This particular young man, the boy that they were talking about, was very easily triggered by auditory and visual stimuli, and it was just heartbreaking listening to the father talk about when he was diagnosed as an infant with autism and how scared he was, and then moving forward to when he's a toddler, and then the diagnosis is just compounded by the triggers for this kid when there's any kind of noise that's outside of his normal routine, or visually if there's a lot of commotion or crowds. That's just, and this father is just, again, gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, talking about, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to take this kid on vacation. And that's oh my God, this past summer I was very blessed to have had the opportunity to go on so many fun adventures with my family. Y'all Facebook stalk me if you're interested, but my mom flew in from Austin and we went on a bunch of adventures with Violet, and Mimi and Pop Pop. We went on a bunch of, we went to Panama City Beach. I'm not going to get into all my journeys, but it was in a very adventurous summer, and I just enjoyed so much all of the firsts that I got to witness with my daughter on the beach and my daughter doing all of these things. And this father on the radio is not going to be able to have that kind of experience with his child, and that sucks. So let's use a parallel. Let's shoot over to triggers. Triggers, everybody has them. We all get triggered by different things. There are common triggers, and let's try to be respectful. While some situations, such as I was just discussing, are obviously more severe and much more psychologically controlling than others, some of us have tendencies that we are easily triggered. Something will rub us the wrong way. You may have high levels of empathy, and something from the previous period may have rubbed you the wrong way and set you off, and you may have gotten triggered. But come on, man, let's meet on the same page. Let's try to develop a better community for each other, and let's be thought forward on this, recognizing our own triggers, recognizing other people's triggers, and then just try to be respectful enough not to intentionally push people's buttons and trigger them. High school people, kids can suck. Sorry to say it, but there's a lot of kids that'll just go around trying to push people's buttons. They do it to me. They do it to each other. Every school. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, I suppose. I personally believe that it deals with brain chemistry and levels of maturity as you are trying to figure out who you are, and adolescence. And I try to remember back to how I was. But I'm going to wrap up with just a quick bullet point of the 3 things that I wanted to try to discuss. The one was empathy. I hope that you understand what empathy is conceptually, and sympathy, and I hope that you would strive for more empathy for your fellow human beings. The next is triggers, and triggers, everybody has them. Just try to be aware of your own and work towards not letting the haters push your buttons and trigger you, and not intentionally being a hater and pushing other people's buttons. And then respect. Every system works better with respect. I don't care what system you're talking about. My profession is education, but I've done a lot of gigs in my time. And I've done management. I'm not going to start listing all of my previous work experience. I have relevant life experience that tells me that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, which means if you're sweet, you're going to get what you want, and if you're bitter, you're going to face resistance. So watch your triggers, be respectful. Past 10 minutes, and I will catch you guys on another episode.